Thanks for telling me that we're live. So thanks for staying tuned. And from that refreshing and laughter-loaded time with Mega, we're still laughing, actually. We're ready to take on our next guest, who will be dissecting the topic, switching roles from military to civilian.
Yes, and without wasting any more of our time, let's welcome on set. On set, I mean, he's on Zoom. He's reaching us from Abuja. Our second guest on the program today is a fellow chartered of Local Governments and Public Administrations of Nigeria, chartered member, Institute of Logistics and Transport, member, International Association of Bomb Technicians and Investigations. He's a participant of the Senior Executive Course 37 of the National Institute of Strategic Studies, Kuru, and a lot more. Our guest is Director NIPS from 2018 to 2020 and Secretary to the Board of Governors, NIPS, as well as Director Administration from 2020, and he's still helping along there. Brigadier General Chukwemeka Fidelis Udaya is Special Advisor on Government Relations, and he is joining us on the show right now. You are very welcome, sir.
And I must say, you handled that with military dispatch.
You guess.
Thank you very much for welcoming me to this.
Brigadier General, are I allowed to say Brigadier General Udaya retired?
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes. So you finally shelved all your engagements to be here today. I want to thank you so much for that. So no more time to waste with a busy general anyway. So let's dig in with the questions.
Exactly. So let me start this way. How has the transition from military service to civilian life been for you? And what have you been, what has been the biggest adjustments that you've had to make so far?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank you for inviting me to this program. And then I think this is a very interesting topic for me because transition from military to civilian life has been a very contentious issue for many of us. But I've been particularly very lucky in the sense that before I retired from the Army, I was posted to the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Study as a directing staff. Okay. So I transited from the National Institute. I've always had this crave to impart, to share part of my experience with people. And the National Institute was a very good opportunity. So while at the National Institute, I retired. And interestingly, I was retained. So it was as if it was like the military already prepared the transition for me, So it was very smooth. My transition was very smooth. I retired at the National Institute, and I didn't have much. The only challenge I had was, in the Army, we have what we call the Army way of doing things, the military way of doing things.
Correct.
And it's always, you don't question policies, you don't question issues.
Obey first.
The things are properly arranged, and you know where you stand on any issue. Okay. Unlike the civilian life, you really don't know where you stand on many things. You have to fight it out and figure it out all through the way. So, but that's
that's quite an interesting point you've made, because we all know the military to be we've known the military for strict discipline. So now tell us, now that you're on this side of the divide, although you say there is no divide, how has your military background influenced the way you handle civilian challenges, both in your professional roles and in your family life?
Well, my family, they've been with me for so many years. I've been married for close to 20 years now, so I think they've probably adjusted to the way I do things. But with the civilian life, you see, the one thing I noticed is that, and I think that we should take it out to the general public and do a lot of things about it. One thing I noticed is that in the Army, once a decision has been arrived at, everybody, all the staff officers, work with the commander in spite of your previous opinion or your previous leaning. Work with the commander to accomplish that mission. But in civilian life, people still stick to their to their various interests. A decision has been arrived at, but people are aggrieved. They don't want to. They are not home with the decision, so they start. They try to sabotage the things, and I think I see it play out at the national level. Okay. You see, at the national level, before consensus are arrived at, it's very difficult. Unlike in the military, things are very easy because we have the way we think and the way we plan and the way we organize. They are very straightforward.
Wow.
I think I remember T.Y. Danjuma. That's when I reflect. I remember T.Y. Danjuma made a statement one time. When he was one time Minister of Defense, he said that in the military, if a bullet is coming to you, the bullet will come from the front. But with civilian, you can get a bullet from anywhere. I recall. So I think that's when I think back to that statement, I now realize why he said that.
That is so correct. That is so correct. Okay, so you have pursued various academic qualifications, including disaster risk management and strategic studies. How important is continuous learning, especially for individuals who are transiting from military to civilian rule?
Life.
Yes. How important is it?
Okay. The military trains you to perform whatever role they want you to do. But at every level of your rising in the military, either as a platoon commander, as a battalion commander, company commander, or even at the strategic level, the military trains you and prepares you for those positions. Those positions and those training are equally important for civilian life. They have equivalent in civilian life. But unfortunately or ironically, in civilian life, certificates are very important. You have to show evidence that you have acquired certain level of training. You cannot, in Nigeria here, unlike in many other climes, you cannot use your military training certificates to work as a civilian, except in maybe very technical areas. But in administrative area, like, for example, somebody who leaves the army as a lieutenant colonel must have gone through training at the Command and Staff College. Sure. That training prepares you to be able to manage any organization, to lead any organization. But you can't take that as to Wema Bank or to Zenith Bank and say, okay, you have training in strategy in managing organization. They will not employ you. So I think it's important that military officers too, while they are advancing in their career, try to think about what they want to do when they leave military service, because someday they will definitely leave military service. If you leave military service, it's important to have certification in areas where you want to work, where you want to advance yourself in civilian life.
Wow.
Now that's quite interesting, Brigadier General, because you're not alone. There's so many people who have retired from the military and are still relevant to society at large. Sure. Now, if you were to speak directly or talk directly to them, what would your advice be? Because somehow or the other, we need them. We don't just want to have military officers leave and then they become irrelevant. What would you say to them?
You're absolutely right. From my experience, I've come to realize that a lot of the training and skill you acquire as a military officer are very relevant to civilian life. But however, because there is no traction between the skills we acquire in military with the education system in the country, it becomes difficult for such retired military officers to use their military skill to acquire job when they transit from military to civil. this is something I think that the military high command should take very seriously and try to equate military professional skills to civilian educational skills. And I think when we start to play down on certificate qualification, of, especially in civilian life, this will be a lot more helpful for a lot of military officers. I've met a lot of officers, retired officers, who are very, very hardworking officers while they're in the military, very diligent officers while they're in the military, but because they do not have relevant civilian certification, it's difficult for them to get a job that is suitable for their for the type of responsibility that they should be having in civilian life. And again, I think the civilian, the country, not just civilian, the country needs these military men to be able to fill in a lot of skill, because there's a lot of training that goes on in the military. The army trains you. We have the Department of Signals. In that department, they train people in communication. We have the infantry, train people in leadership.
Okay.
They have the artillery. All sorts of training goes on in the military, and this training and these skills are very much required in civilian life.
Okay.
But
all right.
Because we don't have that traction between the Ministry of Education and the Department of the Ministry of Defense in order to equate those skills and probably certify them, it's a problem.
Okay. So as someone who has successfully managed a leadership role, both in the military and in civilian life, what advice would you give to families who have members at this moment in the military, especially in terms of supporting them during the transition to civilian role? What can other civilian life, what can other members of the family do, you know, even while, you know, their brother, their husband, their sister is still in service?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. You see, again, I think that because of probably the role the military has played in government, many people don't seem to understand the military a lot. And because of this, there is a gap, even within families. When we have a child in the army, I'll tell you from my people, the Igbo people say that now, meaning that if you have a child in the military, you don't have a child. Wow. So you can imagine that's psychology. Now, you know, it means that, oh, you don't have a child, he's in the military, you don't have a child. So there's a misunderstanding about, there is a gap in understanding what the military stands for. The more people begin to appreciate the military as a source, a national, and a source for the country, a resource for the country, okay, the better for Nigerians and the citizens. So if you have a member of the military who is a member of your family who is in the military, you need to understand the peculiar nature of their service. These are people who have committed to giving their lives for the country, should it be necessary. These are people who have committed to making the extreme sacrifice, should it be necessary. And it requires a lot of discipline for somebody to take up such an enormous responsibility.
Absolutely.
I think it's an orientation. It's an orientation that almost everybody, not just members of the family, need. It is.
Absolutely, Brigadier.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
No, I think it's a reorientation for almost everybody to begin to understand the role that the military plays and the military men and women,
Exactly. Yeah, it's not just for members of the family. I think it's for the society at large.
Yes.
And people begin to reorientate and begin to appreciate. in a lot of climes, in a lot of, I think Airpeace started something very recently that when you board Airpeace, before you board, they will ask if there are military members around, and then they will allow the military members or retired military officers to board first,
Wow.
you know, recognizing and appreciating what their service for the country, you know.
That's good.
And early in the early 70s and early 80s, there used to be different rates in the country for military personnel. You go to a shop and then you buy things a little cheaper than the other people. It's giving appreciating, you know.
That's interesting.
Awesome.
So, I mean, so Brigadier General, I mean, we're rounding off now, but we've seen you in the well-starched army uniform, and we've also now seen you in a casual civilian attire. So what next? What kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind in your civilian endeavors and contributions to the country? Because you've gone around. You've gone around military, now you're in civilian. What do we expect from you in the future? Just in 30 seconds.
You see, this country has been very magnanimous to people like me, especially a lot of us in the military. I went to primary school, I didn't pay anything. I went to secondary school, Nigerian military school, was paid throughout by the army. I went to the university, I was under army sponsorship. I've gone through a lot of training. I rose to the rank of Brigadier General and retired. I've attended some of the best institutions in this country. I've gone on foreign missions, all expense paid by this country. So I look forward to giving back to this country. That's my desire. What I intend to do is to give back to Nigeria, pay back to the citizens so that the country will benefit from the training I've received. I was at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, and you would not, the enormous amount of money the government spend on participants at the National Institute and the enormous training they get at that level. You can't just let all that waste for nothing.
Wow.
So I'm looking for an opportunity to give back to this country, return back to Nigeria all that I've benefited from them.
Wow, I can feel goose pimples all over me as you say that. Indeed, there's no shortcut to success on professionalism, and that was really hands-on, Brigadier General. We wish you all the best in, all your endeavours in the future, and I hope that we'll be able to have you again on the show, to talk to us again. Thank you so much for being with us, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Like they say, borrowing from Flavor, if you know, you know. And if you do not know, you do not know. So you have known so much, so you have experienced all that there needs to be experienced in the military, and you are bringing it to play in the civilian life. Thank you so much for that conversation with you. It's been very, very rewarding. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah, so we're not near done yet in adding value to you this weekend, yes. Yeah. And when we return from our next break, a charming and highly focused professional will join the show as we continue to impact, inspire, and challenge the I can do spirit in you. Stay with us and we'll return with more.